Welcome to Tech Tuesday, the ultimate Tech Tuesday of the year. It's ultimate because it's the last one. And I always like this Tech Tuesday because it's Pechakucha style or Pachakacha style, depending on how you want to pronounce it. I'm fairly liberal with my pronunciations, so you can say it either way. But the idea or the concept is you have 20 slides and you have 20 seconds per slide. So it's super entertaining and it's super fast. And if you don't like one slide, it's gone in 20 seconds. So we've got librarians and IT people and Jill here today, and Shelley will start us off. And thanks for coming.
All right, I can do it. I'm ready. All right, so I'm talking about favorite online research sites, and here we go. Data.gov is a portal to U.S. government data sets, and this is keyword searchable and a lot easier to find government data sets than trying to go to the individual agencies to find them. So this searches across agencies, and it's also got some tools for data viz and research. USA.gov is a portal to U.S. government. It searches again across all the agencies. And one thing that I really like about this is you can search national, state, country, city, or tribal government from here. And you can also drill down through these categories. All right. Career One Stop. This is awesome. If you're trying to get information about careers, you can get explore careers and get salary info. It's from the Department of Labor, so it's got occupational outlook handbook data, so you can get real-time data, and you can also find training and education programs. Whew. Okay. Library of Congress Digital Collections. Go here if you have time. It's a time seek. It is a huge collection and it's awesome. I love this site, but all I have time to tell you is you can do images, maps, letters, texts, and you can get a glimpse into history with, for instance, the Lincoln photographs and American memory. Digital Public Library of America. It does exist. It's an online searchable portal for digital items and exhibitions. It links out to the hosting site, so those are almost always full text and free, and it has all kinds of formats, text, sound, and video as well. This is a visualization. Each one of these is a picture of 187,000 digital items that the New York Public Library downloaded last year. So you can interactively search this, and you can also search it by color, believe it or not, timeline, and topic. And this is one example of one of those images. Google Arts and Culture, fair warning, this is a time sink, but it's amazing. You can do 360-degree visits of museums. They have projects and experiments. You can see art, artists, art movements, galleries, and online exhibits as well. Tut Library Special Collections, you'll hear more from Jesse in a minute, but I wanted to highlight the collections that have been digitized, and go knitters. The one I'm going to tell you about is our Century Chest, and this was a 100-year-old collection that got opened in 2001. Visit Digital Library, that guy, to learn more about it. Archive Grid is a nationwide level, searchable by subject listing of archival holdings. Imagine you're a history student and you need to know where Mark Twain's papers are. You can find it here, and you can search by all of these facets. Whew. Okay. Internet Archive. I love this site too. This is so cool. You can see all of these different formats here. These are the folks that are spearheading the rogue archivists who are trying to preserve vulnerable U.S. government data. And it's the home of the Wayback Machine, where you can get snapshots of old websites. Journal Seek. So if you need to know what the scholarly conversation is or what journals cover a particular topic, you can use this as a directory. It does not give you access to the actual articles, but at least it gives you an idea of what journals that you can search or look for in the databases. directory of open access journals is just a little bit different because you can search by article, and these are purposely open access, available on the free web, but you can go through this directory to search by subject and find articles that are in that collection of open access journals. First Monday is one of the very first journals that was open access. It is peer reviewed, and it is focused on internet, information use, ethics, media, government, and one of my favorites, how students use information. So you can come and take a look at all of that information there. TET Library Research Guides. Your friendly librarians have created these guides by topic. We've got broad-based subject guides. We have course-specific guides. We highlight the current block right here. And then we have general guides that have all of these kinds of information on them that you can take a look at. So take the last slide and multiply it by all the academic libraries that use this software, and you can search that community. So you can search by subject and then get a whole guide to give you information about that particular subject. So I searched for alternative facts and got a big selection of guides that you could take a look at. This is Cornell University. This is the UT Austin Libraries, Perry Castaneda Library. Their map collection, which is known and used worldwide, theoretically are rumored to be used by the CIA. Who knows? But you can get all kinds of historical and thematic and current interest maps from this one portal. And a specialty dictionary. So if you need vocabulary for search words or just because you're curious, you can take a look at this. It does link out to the dictionaries that are published by different people, so the quality varies, but you could do chocolate, you could do education, engineering, forestry, genealogy, all kinds of things. So these last ones are from our subscription databases, so you have to be a member of the college to get there, but this is our newest streaming video database called Canopy. You can get full-length films from this one, and there's all kinds of topics that they cover, and I recently noticed some really interesting titles for anthropology and BemGen. So take a look at this if you're looking for films to see. Social Explorer, my GIS guys are here. You can visually explore GIS data. You can create maps by pairing up GIS data with the geography you're interested in. And it's got different kinds of visualizations you can use, and also a tool that will let you create a presentation based on the map that you used. Web of Science. Don't be fooled by the title. It also has humanities and social sciences as well, but this is one of my favorite databases just for all-around use. It's got very high quality sources and lots of ways to narrow your search. The only thing is it sometimes takes a while to populate, so don't panic, there are sources coming up. And that, my friends, is that.
I apologize, I neglected to mention we do have time for 1 or 2 questions between each presentation. And for those of you who are furiously writing down several of the links that Shelley said, these links will be posted online in addition to handouts and a video archive of this. So if you miss something, it's okay, we can get you the link to it. All right, so if you're interested in the links, just see me afterwards and I'll take your name down and email and send you what you need to know. All right, any questions for Shelley?
No, but thank you, because I mentioned some of these things that you already introduced them to.
That's not fair.
All right. Thank you, Shelley. Jill?
Sure.
All right, I feel a little bit of fish out of water because I am, as you know, not a technology expert. Is that line her line? I'm not going to get that line, am I?
No, you're not going to get the one.
Dang. Shelley, you should have told me about that. So I am an economist, as many of you know, and so one of my interests in technology is how technology is changing our economy. And we've come a long way in recent years, but we have a long way to go. And what's coming down the pike, I think, is both fascinating and frightening at the very same time. Those of you, anybody old enough to remember 1983 in this room, remembers Joshua and when he first played tic-tac-toe in war games. and how that was a big moment in popular culture. And I often think about all the popular culture out there and how it impacts our sense of artificial intelligence or AI. In 1980, Herbert Simon said that machines are going to be capable in 20 years to be able to do what a man can do. We know we haven't done that yet, but we made amazing advances, particularly in what are called deep neural networks. And I know just enough to know what I don't know about deep neural networks. Weak AI is in all of our houses now, right? How many of you have an Alexa? So did anybody see Saturday Night Live last week? They made one for old people. It was the joke that you could call it any name you wanted, which I thought was very funny. But these are doing great things for us in our homes now, but they are just the very beginning, we think, of what is to come. We know self-driving cars are on their way. Some people say within 5 years. Elon Musk will tell you 5. Most people will tell you more like 10. But obviously, whatever's going to happen, it's going to be a major change. And all the major car companies, including Google, Uber, and Tesla, are now working hard on self-driving cars. So strong AI is also coming in healthcare. Really amazing to think of what's going to happen. Putting together big data along with some of the new individual personal assistant that you have. Everybody counts their hearts and their steps and everything right now. But imagine what will happen then if you could detect a heart attack, if you could detect mood disorders, if you could detect anxiety in individual people and actually send that information to your doctor. We'll talk a little bit about privacy and the concerns that go with privacy around AI in a second, which I think are big as well. We're also going to be seeing, this one's really long because there's nothing on it. Strong AI in education is also coming. This is really exciting for us. I think those of you who've done a little bit of learning by gaming in different environments, we're likely to see what I'm hearing now is software to track your learning, give you automatic curate the web for content, which as a faculty member would be awesome. But I saw an article in Inside Higher Ed the other day that they think robots are going to be able to do peer review, which is really exciting because most of us wait weeks, months, years to get an answer to a journal article. But they think they could flag plagiarism, see when data is incorrectly used or looks anomalous. Also look at statistical tests at whether they're the right ones. So it's a hot topic. If you look nationally, 4 times the coverage over 10 years ago in the press. And a lot of it's optimistic, which is good, I think, but there's also a lot of worries about AI. And why do we care what the public thinks? Well, actually, I think we should care a lot because public opinion on this is going to drive regulation. So what are the public worried about? 53% think it's important, but are skeptical about the usefulness. Is Alexa really that useful? She's really good for a shopping list. But also have concerns about control. And according to a recent Harvard study, for example, AI in cars, which is likely to be one of our first strong AI examples, it's going to be difficult. So people are worried about losing control. Both Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking have come out and really painted kind of doomsday pictures of what AI could do, talking about like taking over the human race, which is a bit over the top, but they've started a group now to get AI experts to sign on to commit to only use AI for good and to deal with some of these privacy concerns. Going back to big data, every company is now a data company, right? Because if you sell stuff, you have data to collect. Obviously, privacy folks are really worried about how that could be used against us, not only the data, but algorithms could be used to create bias out there. So that's a big one right now. Also, loss of accountability. If a driverless car hits you, who's responsible? If a computer comes up with a new algorithm all on its own to decide where to sell something or how to price an item, who's responsible for that as well? Which is an interesting question, I think, what we're going to see with AI as well. Biggest question, of course, is jobs, right? We're going to lose jobs. Weak AI has already resulted in the loss of millions of manufacturing jobs. However, we're likely to see strong AI move into other sectors, right? We've now sort of seen manufacturing and a little bit of service, but pretty soon you'll be able to have a college president with a robot. So we worry about things like, is full employment no longer possible, right? And we're hearing a lot, Elon Musk is sponsoring studies in California on universal basic income, meaning everybody would get a certain amount of money and no matter what, because they're worried about leisure time and whether people will be driven. So impact on us in higher education. I think weak AI has increased dramatically the value of a college degree. Millennials have the largest earning gap, meaning the gap from college to high school of any other generation in history in real dollars. All of the jobs, except for 100,000, over 11 million of the jobs created since the Great Recession have been for folks with college degrees, not without. So what jobs are next? Predictions say that 5 to 10% of jobs will be lost in the next 5 years because of AI. And for example, 3.8 million people who earn their living driving cars, what are their jobs going to be? They're also talking next about insurance underwriters, bank tellers, financial analysts are a big one that are coming. So my message in the end, the liberal arts are going to be more relevant than ever. Skill and interpersonal interaction is going to be incredibly valuable. And this great quote from E.O. Wilson that says, we're going to need wisdom when we have information and more robotics. Will robots be wisdom? I don't know. We'll see. So what's our response? I would say, ready or not, here it comes. History is shown. Don't try to stop it because we've never been good at that. But get ready for it. Thoughtful regulation, not reactionary regulation. Ethical standards will be key. And really good public policy as we think about the changes in the labor market that are coming. So, wow, that was harder than I thought. Thank you. I have time for one question?
One or two questions.
One or two questions, yes.
So I'm sure you were at Sir Angus Deaton's
I
talk
was, yeah,
earlier,
which was
and-
very depressing.
which was very depressing.
It was, yeah.
And he mentioned, or he was asked about this question of automation in jobs, and he did not seem very willing to buy into universal basic income.
Right.
And I didn't know if that was something that you were interested in buying into or had favorable opinions of, or if that's not an option, what are we gonna do?
I think it's a great question. So universal basic income is for example, they say, could it be 10,000 per person in a household, right? Everybody gets a minimum of 10,000 no matter what you do. That way everybody can feed, et cetera. I don't know what that right number is. That would cost over $3 trillion to do that. So then people start talking about means testing. If you make over 100, you don't get it anymore, et cetera. That, of course, gets into all kinds of difficult issues. I think Deaton is most worried about, which I share concern, is that if you go back to one of the reasons I think President Trump won the election is because the Democrats often talked about how we're going to give you a social safety net, and the Republicans promised that they were going to give you your jobs back. And a lot of this class of people that have lost their jobs really don't want a handout, they want their jobs back, even though whether that's possible or not is another story. So the big concern I think Deaton has, which a lot of people share, is people, obviously your whole life, people feel like they need meaning, at least in our current society, and work is part of that. So if we do end up with universal basic income, I think we have to kind of recalibrate as our sort of capitalist work ethic oriented society to think about care, family, all the other things that can help give people meaning and value, not only within ourselves, but with other people. And I think that's going to be a hard cultural change. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
I know.
I did, it's like, there's no way I could even look. I wasted too much time with that.
I'm going to try to read mine. All right, sometimes the people on my team, on the Educational Solutions team, act as matchmakers at CC, and we've lined up different applications with different professors across the disciplines. So today I'd like to introduce you to some of the most popular applications in a speed dating format. And just like in speed dating, when the bell rings, I have to move on. We have 17 applications that we're going to look at, and these are the questions that we're going to cover. We'll find out who has been compatible with the apps, the platforms that can be used for the applications, the cost of a future relationship with the app, and the best features and how they've been used or employed at CC. Adobe Spark has been dated by, among others, by Manya Whitaker, and she used it in an education class. It's web-based. It can be used on any device that has the internet. There are also some apps that you can get for, oh my gosh, you'll have to read it. iMovie can be used on any Apple or Mac device. It's been used in a chemistry class for some SPICE videos by Habiba Vagu. The cost is free. You can do all-in-one iMovies and stuff with the apps. Canvas has been a popular app across the curriculum. Students can look at their grades, they can look at their readings, they can look at the things that they need to do. The cost, of course, is free. And it's used for assignments and readings, and just like I said. Linear video physics was used by Brooks Thomas when he was here. It was awesome. It's $4.99, but he only needed one copy of this, and he used it to track objects for doing video analysis and trajectory, position, and velocity. Yeah. Canvas Pictochart has been used by Mark Smith's class in economics and business. They made some infographics. The cost is free. They have themed templates and HTML publishing, and PowerPoint has been used a lot in economics and business and also in the language classes. Students have used this to make presentations using their language and talking about things, and then recorded it and turned them into movies. It's free for CC. Socrative has been a really popular app. Its platform is web-based, so it can be used on any device. Physics have used it, molecular and cellular biology and geology. The cost is free. For our small classes, it works really well. OneNote is something that's on the Microsoft platform. It's web-based. It's compatible with geology and physics and molecular and cellular biology. The cost is free for us. You can take notes, pictures, and draw with it. NightLab Timeline.js has been used in history classes. You can make some really cool timelines with this that can then be embedded on websites. It's been used as a timeline app for the Digital Humanities Prism project with Carol Neal. Ear Trainer Lite was used in some music classes among a million other music apps, and I just put one on there. But it was compatible with the music students. The cost was free. The exercises, it covers all aspects of music. Go Formative is one of my favorite. It is web-based, and it is something that you can see real-time, do formative assessments in class. Students can write on their device, on an actual worksheet, the answers, and the instructor can see their answers in real time. Erasma, I have to give credit to Weston for this, and Chris, but it's web-based, and it can be used on iOS and Android. The cost is free, and it's been used in the FAC and with art students and education students. iBooks, I'm using that right now to get all of the readings for the Nepal trip, and it's been kind of cool this year. The cost is free, and it organizes and syncs and displays your readings. NoteShelf was used by the geology department. They take the iPads on in field work, and they can take notes and pictures. It was a little bit pricey, but we got a deal on it, so it wasn't $7.99. Show Me Interactive Whiteboard is how you can turn your iPads right into a whiteboard. You can change colors, you can record tutorials and presentations, and then have those later so you don't have to do the same presentation over and over again. YouTube is actually an app that one of the students used for showing 360-degree videos in a project that he performed. It was William Sardinsky. And I didn't know you needed an app to see the videos in 360 degree, but you do, and so he wanted me to put that on the iPad. Adobe Illustrator Draw is one of my favorite apps. It has the layers, but it's a lot more simple than Illustrator and the Adobe products that are right on your computer. You can draw right on your tablet, and it's pretty nice. And that was really hard. So if you're interested in pursuing a relationship with any of these apps, you can contact me, and I'll hook you up.
I have a question.
Oh.
What would you say is probably the least utilized app that you have available on the iPads, but could offer the most value?
I always put that whiteboard app on the iPads, no matter who asks for it, nobody ever uses it. I used to use it all the time when I was teaching in high schools and junior highs and stuff, and I just love that app. But I guess if they don't realize how cool it is, they're not going to ever use it. That's why I put it on there.
I'm Jessie Randall, curator of special collections at the library. What is a book? I know you all know what books are. But any statement you could make to me about a book? I can probably find something in special collections that will contradict it, and we're going to look at examples of that sort of thing in this PechaKucha. Books have pages, except when they are clay tablets, the earliest form of books. This one's from 2032 BC, the Mesopotamian Valley. It's in Sumerian. It's a bill for men who cleaned a canal who want to get paid, and it would fit in the palm of your hand. Scale gets lost up on these big screens. No, books have pages, you tell me. Well, not scrolls. Scrolls are the other big format we read and write in. This one is an Ethiopian scroll on goat skin. It's in a language called Giz. It's about 5 feet long. And of course, all these things I'm showing in the presentation, you can come see it for real in the library and put your hands on. Books are made of paper, except that often they're not. This is papyrus. This is a plant-based form that will hold ink. It's why Sappho's poems come to us in fragments, because the papyrus literally just deteriorates, and quite rapidly too. No, books are made of paper, you say. No, because this is an example of quite a small breviary on animal skin, probably calf skin in this case, it's very thin. This is a hand-copied codex, so a book that's been copied by hand, one to the next. Takes about a year to hand copy a book. Books were first printed by Gutenberg around 1450. Everybody knows that, except in China they were printing books using wood blocks as early as the 7th century. They had paper as early as the 2nd century, way ahead of the Western world as far as printing goes. This is just one single leaf of a printed Chinese book. Books are revolutionary. This is probably the truest statement. I have the hardest time contradicting this one. However, when Gutenberg printed the Gutenberg Bible in the middle of the 15th century, this is a single leaf from a Gutenberg Bible, we just have the one page. You can come see it. He made his pieces of metal type look like handwriting. So yes, books are revolutionary, but they're not always. They're sometimes following on what came before. Books are made to be read and understood. You'd think, but in this case, the Codex Seraphinianus from 1981, this is an illustrated encyclopedia of an imaginary world written in an imaginary language with an imaginary alphabet. Books have words, except for many children's books which tell stories without the use of any words at all. Not just books for children, but this example is Mercer Mayer's A Boy, a Dog, and a Frog series from the 1960s. This book actually is in the education library, not special collections. It's the only one, the only exception. Books exist in multiple copies, except for unique books. We do have some books that are one of a kind. This is Mary Chenoweth's Turn book. Mary Chenoweth taught art at CC for 30 years, and she made books, lots and lots of books, out of scraps of canvas, like this one. It's quite a long, thin piece of canvas there. She used lots of other things to make books. Books aren't for eating, unless you're a bookworm. Bookworms are real things, also known as book lice or silverfish, and they love the taste of linen, rag, paper. We have many examples of bookworm bites in special collections books. Books aren't for writing in, everybody knows that, except scholars are pretty sure that margins of books are meant for us to write in. That's what they're there for. There's no other reason to have all that white space around text. This shows manicules from a 15th century owner of a book. They're little hands pointing at text. There's often a fancy sleeve on them. Books are most certainly not for stealing, except that Stephen Bloomberg stole 2 books from the CC Library in the 1980s. Famous book thief. This shows where he removed a book plate so that if he were caught walking out of the library with the book, he could claim it was his own book and not the CC Library's book. Books are rectangular, except for this pyramid-shaped book and many other non-rectangular books we have in special collections. This is a book about the man who, Champollion, I think is how you say it, who first deciphered Egyptian hieroglyphics. It's a poem about him, made in a pyramid shape. Pop-ups are for kids, except a lot of pop-up books in special collections aren't for kids at all, believe me. This one is Laura Russell's Nocturne. It uses nighttime lit-up signs from Colfax Avenue in Denver. This one is Deborah Weir, who's a CC grad. Her pop-up book, Charged. You open it up and that's what it looks like. Books are normal size, usually, except for Barbie's How to Lose Weight. Tall. The full text of it is "Don't eat." And then this book is one of our very biggest books in special collections. It's about 30 inches tall and it's big, beautiful illustrations of birds. Books are affordable. In 1962, CC bought a copy of the Book of Mormon for $250, which is the most expensive book by far that we bought. On that page of the ledger. It is now worth probably something like $90,000 or $100,000 because there are buyers who really, really want that first edition of the Book of Mormon. Book values are hard to predict. Modern books are made the modern way, except here at CC, where we make letterpress books. Aaron Coe Hicks' The Other Room by Brian Evanson is the most recent publication from the press, all hand-set letterpress. You can see some of the type has been set upside down here. Modern books are fast, except for Candace Hicks's artist's book here where she hand embroiders. She's got a whole series of these. This is number 33 in her series called Common Threads. She hand embroiders the text and hand embroiders a composition book style cover for each one of these. We just have the one. Books can't hurt you, except for Uxoa Auxiliara by Alicia Bailey, a book made of glass. If you pick this up, it can cut you, and you could easily drop it and break it into a million pieces. And I think that is a nice metaphor for knowledge in general. The end. That Candace Hicks composition book with the embroidery is a very favorite one of mine. I'm a big fan. I always use composition books for my own writing, and I particularly like green ones, though she does them in all different colors. I particularly love that one because it embodies the contradictions of modern art making and book writing, right? It would be, as one student said when I showed that book to an incoming FYE, oh my God, that must have been so tedious to make, right? Like, yes, but some of us can't wait to do something like that. Like we're like, give me that kind of tedium, right? Like let me sit with my thoughts and reflect and do something with my hands and make something that takes forever, that's so pointless. But it isn't because it's so fantastic. I mean, that book has given me personally so much joy that it's easily worth the time the artist put into it and the money we spent.
What about this one? Books are for reading.
Well, my example for that is like reading with words. No, because that one has no pictures, or the one that cannot be read, like the one that you can't understand.
Fair enough.
But I know I mean, that one is really that one you can almost go yes
I
because
just feel like I have to stump you.
you're still reading even if you can't understand it. Right? The Sarah Finianis, but you're kind of reading it if you're looking at the letters and trying to read it.
Right. Depending on how you
Maybe,
define
yeah.
it.
What is the other side of those pages in the composition?
They're embroidered each side.
So she just folded it over?
It's like it's got maybe 6 pages. It's very short, the whole thing. It's like a cloth baby book.
Yeah.
And each side has an embroidered. And I think she probably embroidered the cloth and then sewed them together.
It's really
Come look at it, we can try to figure out exactly how to do that.
All right, there's no way I can follow that one up, but. All right, so today I'm going to talk about phishing scams, which are one of the biggest cybersecurity threats we face, both personally and as an organization. I'll talk about why they're so effective and what the best ways are to counter them and protect yourselves. And if you didn't know, they're usually fraudulent email messages that seem to come from a legitimate source that are trying to scam you out of something. Once you get it, the scammers usually try to use that information, like your password or your social security number, for various nefarious purposes, including identity theft and good old-fashioned money theft. They're increasingly popular and effective because they're very easy to create. You don't have to be a hacker or anything like that to do it. Let's talk a little about how most of us think of protection against security threats. We have antivirus, firewalls, email filters, and all kinds of crazy techy, servery stuff that keeps us safe. So we don't need to understand these things, right? We have all the best antivirus on the planet, and the best IT department is all we need. Well, that's not actually true, and I'll go to history. Okay, well, this is the Shire, so maybe historical fiction to explain my point. A small sleepy hamlet like this would have been ripe for the picking by any raiders to come by. They would just simply walk in and kill whoever was in their way and take what they wanted. So in response, somebody back then might have erected like a palisade wall to help stop that. So this is illustrating a little bit the arms race that happens. So now if you're a raider, you have to think a little more, bring a little more resources to bear to get through that wall in order to pillage the village. Next logical step, of course, would be higher, thicker walls, the castle. These are things like firewalls, VLANs, expensive network appliances that seek out bad traffic and kick it out. And now, if a raider wants to get in, they have to bring a whole army. But not everyone has an army of 10,000 orcs and siege equipment to send against the walls. So, with all manner of protections that we have in modern times, it takes a lot more time and resources to brute force hack into something that used to be really easy, like the Shire. So, of course, as a result, we get to where we're at now. And that at some point in this arms race, people figured out, it's a whole lot easier to trick someone into opening the door than it is to knock down the walls. So that's the core concept behind phishing. With only a little effort, scammers can now reap even more rewards than ever before. Whoops. Okay, so this is the best protection that you have. I was all going to say you have to take notes on this slide. But yeah, your own mind is really the best protection that you have. And I'll give you one more example why this is true. When you need to cross a busy street, what do? You all learned it in kindergarten, right? You look both ways. But there's all kinds of infrastructure there to protect you, stop signs, crosswalks, etc. So why not just close your eyes and cross the street, right? Because you know you can't. So it's the same way with phishing scams. All right, changing gears a little. Most phishing scams are designed to steal your password, which is basically your key to a lot of things in your life. Of course, these days, it's not just your house. If someone has your, if you imagine it this way, if someone got your key, they could get your house, your car, your credit cards, your computer, your bank, everything. So a lot of us use the same password for multiple different things, even though we know we shouldn't. I do. Not everything, but multiple things. And so not falling for scams becomes even more important when you're part of an organization. Because even if 95% of people don't fall for a scam, if one person does, then that person now has a CC username and password and can get into our network behind our walls. And of course, since things then come from a trusted insider, like what happened with the Gmail documents thing just in the past few weeks. Okay, so in addition to not giving out your password, you also need to have a good password. So I am saying that these are the criteria for a good password. And this is a typical password that a lot of us have heard over the years is the right way to do it. But let's think about it for a second. It has 8 characters, 4 different types, etc. But is it easy to remember? Is it easy to type? which character is the 5 or the S. You have to do little finger acrobatics, right, to get it right. And the other criteria, is it easy for a computer to hack? Actually, yeah, kind of 9 hours to break that password. Not so much. So I'm going to suggest a different way of doing passwords. They're called passphrases. It's just a set of 3 to 5 words separated by spaces, which count as special characters, by the way. These are actually much easier to remember. In fact, I bet you already memorized this one. And it's easier to type because it's much more like the thousands of words we type every day separated by spaces. And it's slightly harder for a computer to crack. So, in summary, the best ways you have to protect yourself are use a good passphrase instead of a bad password. And even more importantly, stop and look both ways before you click that link. Trust your instincts. If you think something, if you have even a glimmer that something is a scam, it probably is. So you should stop. And, oops. And if you want to know what that cool thing that tells you how long it is to crack your password, that's it. Okay, that's all.
Is there any chance that that cool thing that tells me how long to crack my password will ever track what I'm typing in there?
I
And
know.
be able to trace back to my machine?
An interesting question.
Of course you know.
So that one, you don't submit anything. It's just in the code of the web page itself. So you type it, and it literally tells you right there without submitting. And you're not using a username or anything else. So it's reasonably safe. But yeah, of course there's a chance. And that's one of the takeaways for things like this is you're never ever completely safe. You know, it's a mistake to think that you are.
How do you feel about like the one pass, like password sites that like you just put one, all you need is one password, but it'll remember
Yeah.
all your passwords for many things. It claims to be unhackable type of thing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, except that they've been hacked.
Was LastPass hacked?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
They're still pretty good. But again, you can't fully trust it. The idea is that you don't even have to know your own passwords. You let it manage your passwords for you.
Yeah.
But there is a master password, right? I actually think it's better to have a couple passwords for different types of things. So like my Netflix password and my, my gaming site password are the same. I don't really care that much if somebody gets those, but they're not the same as my bank password. And then I use passphrases that I can remember as opposed to the LastPass thing.
What do you think of that, having a notebook that you write all your passwords down in?
Not as bad as most people would tell you, because the bigger threat isn't really somebody opening your drawer and reading them. Still not the greatest idea. It's better if you can keep them in your head. But it's better than, say, having like a patch on your computer. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I keep my passwords to my phone.
Yeah, phone is probably not the greatest idea either. You know, anything, any electronic device is vulnerable to this kind of thing, and especially with, as careful as you may be, if you give out that username and password even once, or if some computer cracks it, and then they can get access to your password file, and that's trouble. Okay, that's probably too many questions.
So, my name is McKinley, and now for something a little different. Actually, many of the things I'm going to talk about are things that have already come up in our discussion, but the only way I can get through this is I got to read. So, it's harder than you think, folks. I would encourage all of you to come up here and try this. So, how many of you tweet? Raise your hands. How many have a Facebook page? How many have ever gotten mail through the post service? How many of you ever used a web browser? If your hand's raised, then you've used open source software which runs much of the internet. OSS is part of the open source model that encourages collaboration by allowing others to copy and modify one's work. And there is evidence that open source development creates enormous value. The idea is not new. Sharing technical information predates internet and use of personal computers. U.S. automotive manufacturers, concerned with fair competition, instituted a cross-licensing agreement to share their patents. By 1940, there were over 600 patents being shared. That's some money. IBM shared its source code and its operating systems with other programs in the 50s and 60s. The 1990s saw the development of freely modifiable source code with Linux and Ubuntu and BSDs and Apache. In 2001, the Creative Commons was established as a some rights reserved licensing system. In 2008, Android was released. It's based on Linux. So open source technology benefits both programmers and non-programmers. Open source is what makes a program or application work. Most open software has source code that only certain people can access, and that's called proprietary or closed source software. OSS, on the other hand, is about sharing source code. Computer programmers who have access to source code can improve the program. This next chart shows how much impact OSS has in powering the internet and ongoing development. The blue line of Apache, OSS, soars well above the rest, while the most growth is the green line of NGINX, and both are OSS. The Apache Foundation also funds all sorts of projects in the OSS model. So how many of you have an Apple phone? Remember Android, based on that Linux kernel? It is the most popular smartphone device with 87% of the market share. Its mobile app revenue grew faster on Android than any of the others. And the major growth for smartphones is in Asia and China, and that's where Android is really strong. The OS movement reaches into all sorts of industries and stretches around the globe. Brewtopia is an open source brewery in Australia. There's open source pharmaceutical development. The Science Commons was created as an alternative to the expensive legal costs of sharing and reusing scientific work, and the open source science project increases the ability for students to participate in the research process. Open source is more than software, however. Open content includes licensing copyrightable works that are to be free and provide perpetual permission to the 5 Rs. Open content has been used to develop alternative routes towards higher education. How many of you have heard of Khan Academy or Moodle? Open data contributed to the success of the Human Genome Project. So copyright, and more specifically licensing, is an important aspect of open content. Works by the United States federal government, which is the largest publisher in the world, are automatically part of the public domain, and many NGOs have a Creative Commons license. And you may have heard of LibriVox or Gutenberg Books, both of which take advantage of works in the public domain. The heart of open content is being able to legally share knowledge and creativity to build a more equitable, accessible, and innovative world. Creative Commons copyright licenses let creators choose how their work can be shared and used. And one of their goals is to increase the amount of openly licensed work in the world. In 2006, there were 1.2 billion CC licenses. At our CC, you have access to tens of thousands of journal titles and hundreds of databases, and you have to log in to get to them. When you leave here, you lose that access. But when you leave here, your need for information or research probably is not going to end. So researchers and scholars, innovators and inventors, healthcare professionals, all sorts of people need access to information. And so OA, literature, open access literature, could be a solution. Being denied, hitting a paywall, and Chad talked a little bit about paywalls. In 8 months, 8,300 cases. And that means people had to download the little browser and know about it to apply that. So these sorts of barriers led MIT faculty to basically share their articles online with the public. And in a 3-year time frame, they hosted over a third of all of their MIT published articles and made them openly available. And they've been downloaded all over the world. So Shelley mentioned open. No, you didn't. You mentioned the other one. Big numbers here. So OA journals are increasing, and there's evidence that they are more cited than non-OAs, even when they are published in the same issue of the same journal, so which is kind of interesting. And that obviously submissions are rising. So Open Door is one of many directories to academic open source repositories around the globe. Shelley did mention Web of Science. Web of Science is an interesting database because what it really does is it was started to base and track citation use. Citation use is really important in an academic environment because it shows and leads to journal rankings. And that shows the impact and quality of a journal. It shows the value and prestige of the article, and it's growing tremendously. So this is the one that Shelley mentioned. And it indexes high peer-reviewed academic journals, and their data is becoming an increasing part of, and it's written on OSS code. So there's some criteria for publishing in an OA journal, and again, it's double-sided, right? It's a growing, increasing sort of thing, but people are concerned about prestige and cost and visibility and speed, and there's ups and downs to both of that. So knowing about OSS and OA and public domain is important for many reasons. It's critical for many jobs and professional activities along with academic work, and it abounds in many forms. Shelley mentioned the New York Public Library. They also have over 20,000 maps available. There's artwork, there's things like Flickr that allow you to set levels of access and use for users. There's open source games, there's sources of film and music, and you can make money at this, right? You can use your expertise to support contracts, to write enhancements, to create manuals and how-to guides, to write the source code, and to sell yourself as a consultant. And like Jesse, I'm going to end with a quote that I think not just talks about open content, what it might mean for us moving forward, but this is also, I think, the heart of learning and knowledge. So thank you very much.
Any questions for McKinley?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was, gosh, his name is Peter Straub, and he was at MIT and wrote a paper about open access and open content.
What do you think about people that are sort of more renegade doing, like people like Aaron Schwartz, who set up a little workstation in the basement of MIT and was uploading the entire contents of JSTOR so that people could access it?
Well, that's why I think things like Open, the Creative Commons and things like that, and Flickr, and places where you can determine how things can be used, you can set permissions for people to use things. It's quite a barrier globally, you know, and I think that when students leave here, sometimes they're surprised that they can't get to many of the important things that they've been taught to learn to use. So I think it's going to have an impact on people in the workforce and the economy moving forward. So, you know, this idea of how much should a journal cost? Should a journal cost $10,000 for a subscription? You know, and some of them do.
All right, that clapping made it so we have exactly 6 minutes and 40 seconds left. That is awesome. I'm glad the technical difficulties happen with me and not anybody else, so I'm just going to say that. Put that out there. Not that one. There it is. I'm glad I don't need the notes because they don't show up. So, 20 apps or websites that I think are useful or have been useful to me. Link list. If you ever need to send a list of websites to a person, you don't want to just send them a list. You can send them a single link, and that will show them all of the websites that you've got, including their titles, and those titles are automatically generated. If you've ever, who's sent a YouTube video to anybody else ever? How many of you have been embarrassed by something that comes up, an ad on the side of the YouTube or a suggested video? SafeYouTube.net actually can let you cut the YouTube video within YouTube and gets rid of the ads and gets rid of the after stuff as well, so it's safe to send YouTubes to even kids. But making things accessible is very important. So if you have a YouTube video that you've posted yourself and you want to actually generate subtitles for it, you can submit the video or the audio to voicebase.com, and they will transcribe your video for you, up to 500 hours of audio for free. From text-to-speech.com goes the other way. You have a body of text. You've got an article your boss sent you, and you want to read it or have it read aloud to you. From text-to-speech.com will generate a computer voice, which actually sounds pretty good and pretty lifelike, so that you can listen to it as you travel. So you don't actually have to spend time reading the article, you're listening to it. And that's a freely downloadable MP3. Great site, I used it just the other week. Ecosia.com, everybody cares about the environment or has some kind of charity that they care about. Ecosia actually plants trees for searching the web. You do your searches with Ecosia, and so far over 7 million trees have been planted just by ad revenue generated from searching. There are many other charities that have search engines as well. Go to bridgeurl.com/search2donate in order to find your favorite charity to support your favorite cause. I have a browser that only searches with Ecosia, and so I contribute to the planting of trees. If you're interested in web-based charity as well, freerice.com is really pretty cool. For every answer you click that's correct, they will donate 10 grains of rice. Now that seems minuscule, but they have several topics that you can learn about and review through that. German, Spanish, geography, chemistry, lots of stuff you can learn and contribute to charity at the same time. 10 grains of rice per thing. You can even set up teams. Unfortunately, we're low for the year. This is a fourth of the year gone, and they've only gotten 1 billion? 1 billion grains of rice. So get clicking, guys. Get answering questions. This I have Noah to thank for. This is really neat. Map.what3words.com. For every 10 square feet on the globe, there is a unique 3 words that fit that place, and that's how you can find them. There is an app for that. So if somebody says, meet me at copper.wire.ranch, that's the front of the library by the door. Appear.in is a really neat website. You don't need a browser plugin in order to have a video conference. You don't even need to sign in to have a face-to-face video conference. I'm chatting with Napoleon Dynamite there. And you can have up to 7 users with a unique URL. VirusTotal. You're worried about viruses? You don't want to download the thing and then scan it for the virus? You can submit the link to the thing that you want to download to virustotal.com, and it will go through a whole list of antivirus programs to tell you if there's a virus in that. It even has historical scans of that, if that's a common thing to download, so that you can tell if it's ever had a virus in it before. VirusTotal.com, really useful tool. You should probably still install antivirus on your computer, though. And as Chad said, your biggest tool is your brain. As Chad said, howsecureismypassword.net. There are several services that will do this. I like this one because the colors change. And my password, septillion years. I love it.
But only 3.
Yeah, I should make it even longer. But check something similar to your password. My wife uses foreign words. She speaks over 4 or 5 different languages, and so she has quite an arsenal of vocabulary words. If you're interested if you ever have to make posters or presentations and need to use graphics, Pixabay.com, most of the pictures or graphics in it are actually in the public domain, so you can freely use them. I've used Pixabay.com, and what I really like is that it has a search function, so you can actually search for the image that might work. Tinkercad.com is also free. You do have to create an account, but once you have an account, you can get in there and learn how to make 3-dimensional objects, and then you can either import them if you've already got one, or you can download them to 3D print them. I think that's really neat. They've also got a tutorial that appears on the side so that you can learn how to do that. Autodraw.com is a newer product from Google. I am a terrible artist. I do not draw line drawings very well at all. You start to draw, and then up at the top of the screen, Google makes suggestions for things that you might want to have drawn. And so my house was terrible, but look at what it became. If you've ever visited a website and it doesn't load for you, you can use isup.me in order to find out if it's down for you or down for everybody in the world. Thankfully, coloradocollege.edu is still up. There are several other websites that do this kind of thing. Some of them you can give them money and they will continually monitor your website and then alert you if your website is down. There were 3 services, and if you're interested, I can give you those links. A few months ago, I was doing a project. I was going to give a workshop, and I needed some fake data. I didn't want to use people in the in the audience's data. So I did a search, and I found generatedata.com, and I was able to generate fake email addresses, fake names, and locations, and then use that to demonstrate some of the things the software I was doing. If you're interested in real data, on the other hand, Kaggle.com is pretty cool. They've got open data sets that you can download and do stuff with, but moreover, there's a classroom version of this where you can host an a machine learning competition in your class with their data. If you're interested in doing other data analyses, Insight Lite is an online data analysis software package based in New Zealand. They've got a desktop software version as well, and they've got built-in data sets so you can look up things like very large international data sets to do things. But when you're browsing the web, you've got to be careful because your browser can find out a lot about you. Click is an actual website. It doesn't work on campus because our firewall blocks it, but this tells you what you're doing. There's a guy, the developer, actually says what you are doing and what the browser recognizes you're doing. And because browsers are so smart and can grab all your information, and now the FCC has given ISPs permission to do that, you can visit privacytools.io to get lots of tips and lots of software tools that can make your browsing and computing safer. One of my favorite things, though, is as IT people do, good IT people do, we don't send passwords over email. But you do need to sometimes send sensitive data over email. This message will self-destruct. Sends a link to a person, and the web page that message is on blows up. It's gone. Just like that. Any questions? Any questions? And if no questions, Bob Ross quotes.
We will be URLs.
Yes, yes. I will post these on the Tech Tuesday archive page. The video will be on the Tech Tuesday archive page, and I will also make sure all of the URLs are in one very long list. Yeah.
You can send it to us in a linked list.
And I can send it in a linked list or any number of other formats, but most likely I'll be, yeah. Noah?
This is more of a comment, but I don't know if you guys have seen haveibeenpawned.com.net?
Yeah.
Like that. It's just for thinking about phishing things, it's good to know when other sites have leaked your data. So they take all the public leaks of data, and you can put in your email address, and it'll tell you if it's been leaked and by who. And so I put in my Gmail account just last week and found out that Last.fm and Dropbox had leaked it 4 years ago. And so it's just a good thing to know about if you hear of a big, outbreak of passwords or usernames. It's good to just check on that.
And that's Have I Been
I would
P.
just search Have I
That's
Been
what gives you, I
Pawned.
should have been doing with the
No 4.
Oh, no
Yeah,
4.
there you go.
There we go. All right, thanks, Noah. Good.